Hey guys, Thor here, back with another video for you. I know it's been a long time since I actually made a regular video for YouTube, but I want to get back into it, and as you may see on screen, as you may have noticed in my last couple of streams, I am playing Warlock now. Today's video is just going to be a 14 Darkflame that I ran with some guildies, and we ended up timing the key, despite some early setbacks that we ran into. But we timed the key, hit 3k during the key, and I think it was a really fun one overall, and so I'm going to do a voiceover while we go through the key and watch the video. And yeah, I just wanted to give a little intro. We'll talk about the talents. I'm playing Destruction in keys right now with the kind of standard Hellcaller M+ build. This is what you'll find on any of the guides. Running the channel Demon Fire talents. A couple of notes. I do prefer the cast at your target Rain of Fire. I just find it a little more consistent, a little bit easier to use when you're spamming Rain of Fires during your big CD windows. And I am running Mayhem over Havoc. This is just strictly better in keys, you know, with higher uptime of the Havoc buff, which feels a little backwards because, you know, when you have a manual versus passive option, I feel like the manual should lead to a little bit higher performance if you play well. That's just not the case with these talents in Mythic Plus, at least. No other notable changes. Some things you can do if you really want to. You can drop a couple of talents to go into Banish, probably Fiendish Stride to go into Banish if you need to. I have seen some people playing Swift Artifice along with Resolute Barrier in higher keys. You can play around with your talent build to get those if you feel like you need that extra defensive and you want faster Healthstone casts, but I don't think that's really necessary, at least at the level that we were doing here. As far as gear goes, I've only been playing Warlock for a few weeks, so I have limited access to Myth Track pieces. I do have a couple of tier pieces, which is just lucky vault drops. Trinkets, I'm using a Hero Track Signet of the Priory and a Hero Track Entropic Garden Core. I have upgraded everything to 665 just because that's kind of the point we're at with crests in the season at this point. Everything is going to get unlocked next week. We're going to have unlimited crests, so figure might as well go ahead and send them while they're going to be useful this week. I am running a 85-year, 10-year ring with a crafted ring. These two together are simming higher than Circe's Circlet for me. I would advise you to sim your rings and your trinkets to see what's going to end up being best for you. I do have a Myth Track Gear Grinder spare keys, which typically sims higher for me than the Signet. However, I find the Signet a little bit better in the scope of a key. It always lines up with Infernal. It is possible to actually miss your target with the Gear Grinder spare keys, and if you're dodging mechanics and running around, it becomes a little bit easier to do, and that can be really tilting. But just the extra huge chunk of secondary stat for the duration of your Infernal plus Malevolence, it's really nice. It's really good. Embellishments, I am wearing Ascendance on my offhand with the Nerubian, whatever you call it, that doubles the effect of it on bracers. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into that key. So right off the bat here, we're going to do a moderately sized first pull. We're going to pull this whole first room through the doorway around the corner. We're going to pull the first couple of packs in the next room, and we're going to CC one of the Wick Lighters. You'll see our Demon Hunter put Imprison on it. We're going to pull them into the corner, pop Bloodlust, and do a big AoE pull.
Mole Frenzy, overpowering roar.
For AoE for Destro, what I'm mainly trying to do is get Wither up on as many targets as possible using Cataclysm. And then we're going to hit Malevolence to ratchet up the stacks of Wither, so we start getting ticks of Blackened Soul. And we're going to drop our Infernal, pop our Trinkets and everything, and we're just going to spam Rain of Fire. One thing that I could do a better job of that you'll see throughout this video is making sure that I'm not capping on Soul Shards. It's really, really easy to do that in AoE as Destruction. You just generate them so fast that sometimes, you know, you'll be at 3.5, and by the time your Incinerate finish, you were already capped. So I should just cast a Rain of Fire there.
Wild Wallop, overpowering roar. Overpowering roar. Wild Wallop, overpowering roar. Overpowering roar. Wild Wallop, overpowering roar. Overpowering roar. Wild Wallop.
We're moving on to our next pull. We're going to do another relatively big pull around the corner here. And this one actually went kind of sideways for us. Our tank ends up dying, and then I ended up dying, and then our shaman dies, and then our healer dies. Our mage actually lived and tried to keep the pull alive, but for some reason almost everything in this pull ends up resetting. You'll see that in about 45 seconds, I think, maybe a minute.
Wild Wallop. Mole Frenzy. Mole Frenzy.
So again, we're just doing our AoE rotation here. Another thing I didn't mention earlier, you want to make sure that you're sending Channel Demon Fire pretty much on cooldown in AoE. As long as you have Wither up on some targets, it'll extend the duration of those Withers, and it'll also just deal a large portion of your damage. I think it was like 10% overall around that in a typical dungeon.
Overpowering roar. Mole Frenzy.
So you can see this is where our tank dies, and then I had aggro, so I died. Our shaman dies. Our mage was able to get around the corner with blink, but our healer died too. So we released, and we still felt like we had a good chance to salvage this. You know, we're not even 5 minutes in. We were about to pull the boss after we killed that pack. Now, it did reset it, which made us hesitate a little bit. You know, we came back. This is kind of where we realized that like most of the trash had actually reset. But we finished off this pack mole, and we're like, yeah, we'll just give it a shot, see what happens. So we do the pull again. We're gonna take it back to that same slot, same spot, and we're actually gonna kill it all this time. So just a little bit of time lost. You know, we're just spotting the dungeon a minute and a half or so.
Wild Wallop. Overpowering roar. Wild Wallop. Mole Frenzy. Overpowering roar.
Okay, so now we finish up the pack and we're going to the first boss. A couple of things you want to be aware of about this boss. This is not a super hard boss. This is actually our second attempt at this key, and the reason that this is our second attempt is because we got to this boss pretty cleanly on our first attempt, and he despawned on pull. We're still not sure exactly what triggered that, but our Demon Hunter went in and pulled him, and he just despawned, and then we were a little bit tilted by that, and we ended up wiping on him. But this is not a super difficult encounter. One thing that you do need to be aware of is that the boss will eventually put out an ability called Luring Candle Flame on one of the DPS or the healer, and when that happens, you want to be ready to kite the adds if you need to. One thing that you can do as a Warlock that I didn't do here because I just, you know, I was kind of, or I guess I did it but I didn't actually take use of it, is you can put up a portal and then stand a bit away from your portal, and if you get in trouble with the adds attacking you, you can teleport over to your portal and then run away. The other thing you need to be aware of is when these dynamite carts spawn in, you can see we just killed one, you need to focus, you need to swap targets and focus those down and kill them as soon as possible. Other than that, the adds will eventually die to cleave. You'll see they also get killed when these carts come through. If any of them are standing on the track, they'll get one shot by the carts. You will as well, so you don't want to stand on top of the tracks. A couple of things you can do is Destro, you can use Cataclysm when there's a bunch of adds out to apply Wither all of them. You don't need to focus the adds down, but if you get Wither on a bunch of them, that'll just give you more shard generation. So be aware of that. You can pad on the ads if you really want to, but I think the better play is to spend all of your shards on Chaos Bolts and Shadow Burns, because you know the ads are not super dangerous. They're going to die to passive cleave and also to the carts coming through. The boss is what really needs to get focused down, and the carts when they spawn. You must swap to the carts. You can see a few seconds ago, the other thing the boss does is he'll select a target other than the tank and charge at them. I did a really bad job and made the boss kind of charge off into Narnia. But at the end of the day, it's not a huge deal, and you can totally recover from that. This boss is not that difficult. Really, the biggest danger as a DPS player on this fight is if you get caught with a bunch of the ads around you and don't have a way to escape. You can see like there's dots on everyone in the party. They stack up this bleed. It gets really nasty once it gets into double digits, and that can happen really fast if there's like 30 of them attacking you. But we killed the boss with no issues, with no deaths. We killed the boss at about 8:43, so this is definitely a very timeable key at this point. We decided that, you know, we're gonna continue on. We're gonna see what we can do. As far as routing goes, there's a few things that you can do in this dungeon depending on how you want to handle things. We decided to pull every mob in this room between the first and second boss, and the reason we did that is because we want to skip a pack before the third boss that is pretty dangerous once you get to this key level, and just to make up for the count, we ended up pulling everything in here. Now in this room, you want to make sure that you're kicking these what are they called, these blazing fiends. They're going to put out a cast that does like ramping damage every time they successfully get it off, so you need to kill that. Or you need to kick that, and then you want to focus down the big wandering candles. These are like the big wax elemental looking guys that are in the middle of this pull. Those are kind of your limiting factor. If you pull too many of them at the same time, it's going to be a bad time. So you know, you kind of want to like focus them down, and then you can proceed with the pull as long as you don't have too many casters that you need to kick. We took a fairly conservative pace in this room. We didn't do anything too aggressive. You know, the timer in this key is actually very forgiving. So as long as you play it clean and don't make a ton of mistakes, and you know, just do big pulls where you're able to, this is a very timeable key at pretty much every level that it's possible to live. So we move on to the next pack here.
Explosive flame.
One thing that I noted earlier, but you'll see again in this room and in the next room, is very easy to cap on Soul Shards as Destro. That's one thing that I need to clean up with my gameplay, is, you know, not overcapping on shards, especially when you get your Infernal out, when you have Wither ticking out a bunch of stuff. Like, it's really easy to accidentally send extra casts at 5 shards if you're not paying super close attention.
Bonk. 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 Quenching blast. Bonk. Surging wax.
So here we're just cleaning up the last trash in this room before we go on to the next room, and then we'll keep talking once we get into the next room.
Quenching blast. Bonk. Surging wax. Quenching blast. Bonk.
Okay, so this next room isn't too bad, but it can be dangerous if you don't have a plan to deal with all of these ads. We end up pulling everything at the same time because we have a Vengeance Demon Hunter, and even though it was a lot better at this in previous patches, it is still incredibly strong at locking lots of things down. But one thing you want to be aware of is basically all of these guys need stops or kicks. If you kick their cast, they have about a 20 to 22 second recast on their cast ability. So as long as you're actually kicking it, you don't need a ton of like short duration interrupts to really lock this pack down. We have the Sigil of Silence, Sigil of Misery, we have some stuns, and then we have some individual kicks. They do get a bunch of their casts off. I think we get up to 6 stacks here, but our healer is an absolute hero. Wazard, shout out. He's a legend. And so he's able to keep us up, even though it gets a little scary toward the end, but he's able to keep us up without any issues. And then once you kill all of these guys, they'll light all the candles, and boss number 2 spawns. Now, one thing that you'll see me doing here, and this is some Warlock tech, a lot of other classes have ways to do this too, but if you set up your portal on a candle and then play on the candle either to the left or the right, you can light 3 candles every time when he does the orange circles on you. So if you had just a moment to set up, you can do that. I'll see if we get the Wickliter Barrage on us. I take the first one on the candle I was standing on, immediately port to the second one, and then just run over to the third. Sometimes I'll use Burning Rush to get over there, but you don't always have to do that. Now, the way this boss works, I've seen lots of people kind of struggle to understand what's going on because it's not a super intuitive set of mechanics. But basically, every time the boss lights one of these candles on his own without using the Wickliter Barrage, which is when he puts the orange circles on everybody, for every candle that he lights, you get a stack of a dot. That dot gets very, very dangerous once you get to like 4 or more. And if you're consistently getting to 4 or more, it's probably going to be a wipe. So the way that you want to handle it is when he puts out the Wickliter Barrage, he's going to put it on 3 players. He prefers ranged DPS and healers. So if you're melee, you may not have to deal with this, or if you have a bunch of melee in your group, you will have to deal with this. The tank never has to unless a lot of people are dead. But the way you want to deal with it is you want to make sure that you are lighting as many of these candles as possible. Now, you'll see on this one, our healer and I actually went for the same ones, which is a little bit of a mistake on our parts. I should have communicated a little better that we were going for the same one earlier, but you know, it is what it is. We end up only getting 2 stacks here because we have a shaman taking care of 3 on his own as well. And then when he sends out these tornadoes, what you want to do, or at least what we've done in our groups, is you put a marker down that's in line with the boss and one of the candles, and that way you all stack up there, and you guarantee that he only blows out one of them at a time. Because there's 2 times in the fight that you can end up getting stacks, right? It's when he, after the Wickliter Barrage, he's going to light whichever candles are not left up, and then after he blows the tornadoes out, he's going to light up whatever is not lit up again. So you can get multiple stacks at those points, but you know, if you all stack up and send the tornadoes at 1 candle, which you need to do so you have a safe space to stand, then he will only light up 1, and 1 stack is not very dangerous. If you execute that correctly and make sure that the boss is consistently only lighting up 1 or 2 candles, this is a very, very simple fight. You just got to dodge some very well telegraphed floor maneuvers and maybe pop a defensive if you guys make a mistake and end up lighting too many candles. Here I think we get 3 stacks. No, it's just 2. And so this boss is going to go down.
Incite flames.
Now this next room, if you're doing super high keys, can get a little dangerous. We weren't that concerned about it on a 14, especially with a VDH who has like all of his sigils available. So we just kind of kick the mobs that are on the outside. He grips them in. I think we get a silent sigil down. We get a stun off. Yeah, pretty easy pack to deal with. It all dies before anything actually gets casted here. And then I mentioned this earlier, we had elected to skip the pack in the next room. You can do this without a Warlock, but the gateway just makes it a lot easier and a lot faster. If you don't have a Warlock in your group, what you need to do is kind of run up the rocks to the right as you go into the room, and you can kind of jump like down on the staircase toward the bottom. You do want to be a little bit careful because you can aggro this pack if you get too close to it. You see there's kind of rocks like on the side here, but if you have a Warlock, you just put up a gateway and it's super easy. Now this boss is kind of the like healing check, I guess, on if you're actually going to be able to do this key. This is one of the hardest bosses this season. I dropped health stones to start us off here, but the way that you want to handle the mechanics, or at least the way that we have successfully handled the mechanics, is you want to stay close. You want to stay like almost stacked up, stay really close to each other so that these candles or these eerie molds don't get dropped too far away. One person's going to get the pickaxe. You try to pick a mold that's like an outlier a little bit further away, and then you need to make sure that you're clearing the rest of the molds with the purple circles that are going out in 3 players. You do get a little bit trolled sometimes, and you'll get some of these candles in a really nasty spot, like inside of the wax that's on the ground. If you have to break those, you probably want to pop a defensive when you're doing that. I think we have actually 2 inside of the wax there. Now I made a mistake here and I ran into one of them. I did pop Dark Pact, and then our healer was able to heal me up.
Paranoid Mind. Darkflame pickaxe.
Yeah, we're still keeping everything stacked up pretty close here. Our mage does a good job of getting behind the one that would be a little harder to break.
Paranoid Mind.
Make sure that you're kicking Paranoid Mind every time too. If that cast gets off, it fears everybody. And if you don't get the purple circle on you, I think it's throw Darkflame, you want to just get out of the other circles because you can get the healing absorb and like the damage on you, even if you're not picked.
Darkflame pickaxe. Paranoid Mind. Throw Darkflame. Eerie Molds. Paranoid Mind.
So we had a mold spawn in a really unfortunate location, so I was able to kind of thread the needle, and then I called out for a life grip from our priest. If we didn't have a life grip available, I think the correct play would have been to drop a portal before I ran through, but I didn't pre-plan that movement as well as I could have.
Paranoid Mind. Darkflame pickaxe. Paranoid Mind.
You see the boss is getting pretty low here. He's sub 20%. We've been playing it really clean so far. You do start to get punished a little bit when you have some of those eerie molds like farther away, but we've done a good job of recovering and cleaning it up. Gets a little dangerous toward the end here. People are getting low on health. We have been able to clear every mold every time though, so happy we were able to do that because otherwise this gets real nasty. Now at this point we committed to just killing the boss because we didn't want to have to play around with like the molds that are in the wax over there. Unfortunately our shaman did die, but the boss was low enough that we were still able to secure the kill and move on in the dungeon. If you do die at this point, the release is like right here, so you just hit release, you don't have to wait. And we move on to the cart.
But first, the darkness. Darkness can time to flee. Flee to freedom. We can use big candle cart to escape.
Okay, now the cart did try to troll us with its route a little bit here. Our tank went left and the cart decided to go right. I don't know if there's a way you can control which way it goes or just have to kind of go with the flow, but we end up doing some moderate sized pulls in here. We had, coming into the card event, we had about 12 minutes left on the timer, so we felt pretty comfortable with that amount of time. We didn't want to like go super slow, but you know, we don't need to pull the whole thing at once. So we're just doing AoE here, kind of prioritizing down the big ads after the small ads die. Now, once you have the cart, once you have what you're gonna fight and it's like starting to die, you can kind of force the cart to start moving again by pulling everything far enough away from it. If there's not combat within like a certain distance of the cart, then it will start moving again. You do have to be a little bit careful as a tank because you don't take healing, you don't do a lot of damage outside of it, but if you grab a candle, you can just kind of move on ahead and then let everything come back to you. So our tank here kind of went ahead and pulled some stuff, and then we kind of let the cart catch up. I think also if the cart is over like 90% energy or health or whatever you want to call it, then it will continue moving through combat. So
Suffocating darkness. Drain light. Suffocating darkness. Suffocating darkness.
now here I made a little bit of a misplay. So our tank had said he was going to grab everything and run all the way to the end. And I don't know why I misunderstood what he meant, but I decided to start dotting everything up. I don't know what I was thinking, but you can see I had some aggressive wither damage on a couple of the mobs and pulled aggro and died. I had not actually died at this part of the card event before in the season, so I didn't know about this. But there is a lamppost or like a candlestick thing that you can click that'll teleport you back to the cart. So I asked, like, should I release that? They're like, yeah, my teammates told me, yeah, just go click on the thing and it'll teleport back. So you can see it right here. It's called a strange candle altar. You just click on it and it will port you to where the cart is during the event. So you don't have to like try to run through and like grab candles along the way or anything. You can just catch right back up. I do that and then we're able to finish this off. We finished the cart event at like a little over 24 minutes. I think about 24 and a half by the time the last mob dies here. So again, you know, we're on pace to have plenty of time to finish this dungeon in time, as long as we don't make any big mistakes on the last boss. Once the trash is all dead, make sure that you click on the things here. You can just use your interact button while you're facing it. I have had a guildie get left behind at this event before. I was not in the group when it happened, but I've heard the story. And if that happens, you'll get one shot by the darkness when it comes through, when it comes barreling through. Yeah, but other than that, you know, you just throw the dynamite at the boss to keep the event going. I think in Mythic Plus, he just spawns at 90% no matter what, so I don't know how important it is to actually do all of this. I don't know if he can actually catch up with you and kill you on the card if you're not doing this, but you can see, yeah, we get through. We land over here with 545 left, and we've just got one more pull. We just need 4 more %, and then the last boss. And we have plenty of time to do that. We have Bloodlust available. All of our CDs are up and everything, so... we are on track to time the key here. Now this trash can be a little bit dangerous. The corridor creepers do apply a dot to the tank that can be dispelled, but it hurts quite a bit. And they also get bigger and do a lot more damage when they're standing around friendly corpses. So as you kill the little ads, if you're tanking, you need to make sure that you're moving them away from those ads so that they lose their stacks of this buff. You can see that one of them just had to drop off. But other than that, we just got to kill these guys, and then we're going to end up with almost 5 minutes. I think we kill one of them and then pull the other one into the boss. So for this last boss, there's a few things that you need to be aware of. It's a pretty straightforward boss. You basically need to be running around grabbing candles and bringing them back into the big candle in the middle of the room throughout the fight. There's a couple of times that you have to do that. Anytime the candle's getting low, you can also pick up the candle and move it. Typically, the tank is responsible for picking up the candle and moving it out of the frontal, and that's because it like silences you when you're doing that, but also when the boss is casting the frontal, the tank's not really taking any damage. So you can have your DPS and your healer continue to play while the tank does that. Now we can get this shadow, what's it called? Shadow Blast on you. You get the big purple circle. You need to run out and grab a candle. If you don't grab a candle, you're gonna die. So make sure that you do that, or have a huge defensive up, maybe an external. As well. You want to interrupt the Call Dark spawn that the boss casts. He's going to continue to summon ads while that's being cast. He will always get at least a couple of them in there just from the first tick of it, but once those ads start coming in, you need to either kick them or CC them. The boss also has this ability called Eternal Darkness, and when you cast that, you need to get a candle to bring in kind of like as late as possible into the cast before the candle that you're standing on actually runs out. If it runs out, the boss will cast a fear that will send everybody scattered around and will also give you a permanent 10% haste reduction throughout the rest of the fight. And I think it might also increase your damage taken. So you really don't want that to happen at any point during the fight. Now our mage had volunteered to go out and get candles during the Eternal Darkness cast, because he was able to alter time and then come back in. You can do this as a Warlock as well. You just drop your Warlock portal where the candle is. You need to make sure that you're updating that throughout the fight, because you're going to move the candle around out of the frontal. When the ads come in, you want to use some kind of CC. You see we've got a Silent Sigil go out on them there. Sometimes I'll drop a Shadow Flame on them, or just kick them when they start casting, but they will drain the candle. And this Eternal Darkness cast will also drain the candle. Here we got really low. Our mage was able to kind of clutch it out. The candle got down to 0%, but he got back in with the new one before the boss started casting his fear. So kind of saved the day there. Boss is getting a little bit low. He does die at 55%. So yeah, at this point we just kind of got to keep on doing what we're doing.
Drain light. Drain light. Drain
Shadow
light.
Blast.
Umbo slash.
Now we're going to get the boss. He's down at 56%. He dies at 55%, so we're just about to finish this dungeon with almost 2 minutes to spare. I think we actually kill him during or right out, yeah, during the Eternal Darkness cast there. And you can see this was my Keystone Legend key. Our Priest and Shaman also got Keystone Legend, so we kind of had a 3-for-1. Really excited to see that. And yeah, it was a good key overall.
I can't wait to hear about your adventures.
Hey guys, back at the end here. I realized I didn't show the damage breakdown at the end of the video last night. I didn't recording, so I wanted to bring it back up for you guys here. You can see that the majority of our damage just about is coming from our hero talents. Wither, of course, would be Immolate, which is going to have a high percentage of damage even if you're playing Diabolist, just because you have easy ways to apply it to a lot of targets, but Wither does a lot of damage as well. Blackened Soul obviously procs from stacks of Wither, so that's accounting for a lot of our damage, along with Rain of Fire and Channel Demon Fire. Yeah, you can just take a look at the chart here, screenshot it if you want, compare it to your runs. But anyway, that's the video. Really glad 3 of my guildies, including myself, hit 3K last night, and we're going to be back with more streams and more videos in the coming weeks. Thanks, guys. Hope you have a good one. Peace.